So I thought I'd make a video, just venting and talking, and whoever has the time to watch these videos. I got done watching this correctional officer that been doing this for like over a decade, and talk about prison stories. And I thought, I've heard several of them. I mean, I've only talked to a number of people that went to prison, and I remember a few friends telling me, they're like telling just the most craziest things you can imagine that are bizarre to human behavior. Not just rape, but the time and the things that they do, what goes on there that nobody really knows about. And I'm listening to these stories, and most of it sounds pretty in line to what I remember hearing so many other stories, and heads being cut off, and you always hear about it is interesting to hear about the stories and how the manipulation of how inmates and other gangs turn on a single individual, and they use various different types of tactics to then lure them and then throw them to the dogs, basically for free meat. And I know that this particular story that he said that there was an Aryan Brotherhood guy that he said a racist, a white supremacist that raped a little black girl, and I don't know what reason he said it happened for, but he raped a little black girl, and he had done that, and I don't know if it was like a white thing or a racist thing, like the Aryan Brotherhood, and he ends up going to prison. So he goes in there hardcore. He's going to climb up the ranks, whatever, to Aryan Brotherhood, the racists and the gangs affiliation shit. So he does this, and he's with the whites. Well, when the whites find out somehow through the information from the outside world, because you got to keep in mind that a lot of the highest level of hitmen and dangerous people are in prison, and are very dangerous people because they have contact with the outside world, and they put out hits and kill people, and you never know who does it because orders are coming from the inside penitentiary. And these are the worst, the hardest core penitentiaries. These people, I'm going to this other, which is very detailed, and I thought, damn, it's like, but I know this day and age they have a lot of digital crazy shit, but people are so creative because they have all the time to think to be creative. Obviously, you can see how creative I can be on building ships in a room, and I'm building all these models. Imagine with somebody's a criminal that never gets out of the penitentiary. And anyway, but he says this guy's in prison, and somehow the Aryan Brotherhood or whatever, they find out this guy raped a little black girl. So they don't tell him, and his own people work this plan against him, and they basically fed him to the blacks. And so when he gets transferred into the blacks know that he raped this little black girl, and the whites do, but the whites don't tell him that, and they feed him, and they destroyed this guy, and basically stab, kill him, rape him, horrible things, and just they take this guy out. And one of the things I thought of myself, because I was with this girl that was black, and I remember this. I remember this very clear, and I thought I was in Mr. Barry's class, and this guy, when I was in his class, there was a black guy, but in the class, but he kind of looked kind of nerdy, but kind of well dressed, like a well groomed, sort of like he was going to finish high school, and I think he was a senior or a junior, but he looked a little bit older. Maybe he could have been undercover. And this is the time whenever Jesse had pulled an AK-47 on one of the guys in my classroom who was a drug dealer. And this guy looked like a bulldog. I mean, he was a Mexican guy. I mean, he was ugly looking, just mushy face and shit. And looked like he had a lot of acne, but just he always behaved like he was a kingpin, like he was. And I always thought this guy watched really too many movies. And I actually bought weed from this guy before once, and I remember going to his house. I've been to this guy's house, and he was living in his backyard, and he was living in this huge house, like this secondary sort of house in the backyard. And this guy was a drug dealer, and he had like somewhat of, I guess, a decent-looking girlfriend. But this guy was like ugly. This guy was an ugly-looking guy. I mean, you could tell by looking at it, ain't no girl would want to be with that dude. And he always wore jewelry, a lot of jewelry. Like he seemed like a dumb idiot drug dealer that watched too many Al Pacino or what is it? What did they call Al Pacino movies? And anyway, but Jesse, which is a guy that I used to associate with, buy drugs from, weed mostly the entire time, who was the brother-in-law of Robert Zarati's sister. Robert Zarati's brother-in-law, which is Robert Zarati's sister, Mary Zarati's ex-boyfriend or whatever. Anyway, they lived down the street in Carrollton. And I had suspicions that this guy may have slept with Scott Springer. And I don't know if he did. I think he possibly did. Because I remember going there one day and he was behaving weird. Like he thought I gave him something. And he was just kind of happy about it. Like he thought I was giving him something. And I thought it was just weird. And I didn't say anything because I knew they boxed. But, I go into Jesse's to buy weed, $20 worth of weed, $25. And I always kept Richard and John away from this because these guys, they just didn't understand it. They thought it was kind of like a power thing, but for me, I felt like I was sort of keeping them safe to get them away from these people because they were white and they didn't understand, and it was sort of a racial thing. But anyway, I'm in this class with Mr. Berry. And I'm watching this guy, but he had Jesse and robbed him, and I knew this guy already was a drug dealer. And I don't remember if I remember at that time, I was like, I've seen this guy. What's he dealing with Jesse? And I maybe seen him once, so I really didn't know this guy. I didn't associate him with class or anything. It was a big open room, and there's different, it's a big room, very big room, and there's all these like sort of sections with computers, and you do these sort of studies, you do aerodynamic studies, and then you go to a different station, and so you just sort of take classes like that. So I'm in this class, and I know that Mr. Berry mentioned something about a black girl, and this is this guy that was after my dad's money, very detailed, and there's a black guy next to him, and the guy kind of acts weird, but he mentions a black girl to me, and he's like. He's way across the other room, but he's trying to get my attention. He's trying to, and at this time, I was 17 years old. It was right before I left that high school to end up going to Mary Grimes. And when I'm in this class, this guy looks like Ken Cooper, right? This guy was a homosexual, and I remember this guy. He said something to pitch the idea. Like he was pitching the idea, and the reason I could tell that he was trying to engage with me was because he knew that I was ignoring him, and he was like trying to kind of trigger me to sort of pay attention to the subconscious mind. And I was kind of keeping like my sort of peripheral vision and paying attention. And this guy kind of lures the situation like he's a friendly game kind of guy. And he says, he goes, oh, is that black? Okay. And he sort of smiles. So what he's doing is he's engaging at a 17-year-old kid to say, okay, now sell this Mexican to that black right there. Because Richard Murphy was dating Raquel. So this guy knew that Richard Murphy was gay. So this is how this guy right here is now beginning to sell and try to bait me this way. And I'm watching this guy. Like I notice that he also knows this other guy is a drug dealer. Like he knows he's a drug dealer, or because I don't know what this guy's affiliated with. I don't know this guy is, maybe there was an undercover. Whatever this guy's no good news. I don't care if he was with the police. I don't care if he was. This guy's no good news. And I noticed that. So whenever I get to his desk and to turn in a packet of paperwork or something, I hardly ever did my work. And he goes and he's like, look, and he goes, here you go. And he's sort of not throwing the paperwork at me, but he's trying to pay attention to my body language and my atmosphere. And he's looking at the desk and he goes, pulls out his wallet. Okay, yeah. And he's trying to like train me, and I knows that the vibe that he's sending isn't good. It's not good. Like I want to control you. I want to poison your shit. And I notice that he's doing that. So I think that this is important to talk about, because when I'm watching these prison stories, I thought, there's all this manipulation in all scales, but obviously what's happened to me was basically, you're dealing with a mutilated, amputee, and God knows what other worse stuff I have yet to even find out. But I think it's important because I was in a relationship with Raquel. Where did Raquel come from? If Raquel was, because Richard could have been baited her, and I'm not trying to go into this obviously racist path, but this is kind of exactly, whoever could look probably into this. And I recall that, I think it's important because this guy was keeping tabs on Richard Murphy. He was keeping tabs of this inner circle. He shouldn't have known that. What are you doing with a 16-year-old, 15-year-old boy? Because I'm a year older than Richard, like 15 months, 14 months, I think, older. I'm at least a year older than him. So when I'm 17, if Richard Murphy's 15, 16 years old, what are you doing trying to then sell this black, because Richard is gay, and then you're going to sell this one, because this is kind of what he's doing. So I think it's important to talk about, because who knows what this inner circle. I haven't heard from Raquel. That's one person I haven't heard from out of this whole picture of everything that's kind of been really going on. Is I haven't heard anything from this person. I heard this person over the phone, what sounded to be her voice, when I was about 30 years old, 31, right before, when I was living with Charles. And Charles worked for a nursing home, and he was what do you call CNS or certified nurses, CNA, certified nurses assistant. And so he was dealing with sort of going to nursing homes and all that other stuff. So, and I lived with him, real skinny guy. I mean, this guy was like bone skinny, flamboyant gay, but he was like puny. Like, this guy was tiny. And I thought he was a good guy. He was, in my opinion, I just thought he probably did a good job at the nursing home, right? He worked there all the time. And I think he was twins. Anyway, and I'm there, and I think to myself, this, because I haven't heard from I forgot I was trying to go with this conversation. Yeah, I was 31 years old, and that's when I heard Raquel's voice over the phone, and I called the crisis line, and it was her, and she said something like, stop being racist, or don't be racist, or something like that. And it sounded just like her voice, but I don't know if it was her. There's so much electronic devices, impersonations, and all kinds of stuff. So, but that was pretty much it. It was probably a very minor conversation of maybe 10-minute conversation, 5-minute, before I had to hang up the phone and leave, or do something, or call another crisis line, or hung up the phone, didn't want to talk to this person. I don't know what it was, because I just didn't know what the hell was going on. And with phone tapping and all this other crazy shit. But I thought, there's no telling, because of this whole Michael Jackson situation and Miguel doing what he was doing. I mean, everyone knew about the Michael Jackson thing. That put so much tension and so much attention and tension on me and my family, who can we target next? Who are we going to go after next? And that is something that is the biggest milestone of a treasure box that you can get, because you're going to deliver a message to so many people and to the celebrities world that you can reach to the highest level of power, and then run your own game. That's what you'll do. Because there's people that want to do that. There's people that crack open a beer and sit on their love seat, and if they don't care about what they're doing, they're sitting at their house right now, relaxing, watching TV, and they're just after predatorial shit, and that's all they're doing. And they very polite to people, and the people think that they're heroes. So, and I thought, this was a long time ago. And I just got done speaking to a conversation with Ashley, who she was a very sweet girl. But I don't know who it was along the ways that told me this. Nobody told me directly this, but it was kind of coming to the sort of slight conclusions to this. Like, some people were telling me information or something, and said that Ashley, the reason that she had a blue Lexus, she got a brand new Lexus, like, I don't know what series it was, but it was 0 miles right off the parking lot. And she was coming over to my house, and with Robin and Chris Martinez, and she came over to my house probably 2-3 times, and then she showed up with this car. And she said, and she was young too. She's about my age. She's like a year, 2 years older than I think I am. And she said that, I said, how did you get that car? And she said that she got into a wreck with her car, and it wasn't her fault. She got a lawyer, and this is what Robin said as well, is that she got into a car wreck, she injured her back, and the insurance paid her out. And that's what Michael told me. He was told the same thing too, but she told me this in person. She said that she injured her back really bad in a car wreck, and they paid her like 40 grand or something like that. And she got this brand new Lexus, and it's sitting in front of my house. And she's traveling with all her friends, going places, and they really used that girl. They really used her. There was a lot of people because I knew that later down the road she started doing drugs, and there was just, you can't drive around with that kind of car. I think people are gonna, So, but before, she never used drugs. Maybe once. Never did cocaine there. Maybe meth once or twice. I don't even think at that time she had even done meth. I don't even know. I think she had like a beer. I don't even think she was a drug user even at that time. And it wasn't until she stopped coming over, that everyone stopped coming over to my house, that I think then that's kind of when it snowballed. Everybody kind of went into their own directions of life. And I recall that was the story. And I thought, Robin was usually always around her, and there was this one girl that was like a transgender. And I didn't know this person was a transgender. And Michael Rossiter and a few others used to kind of joke around that she looked like an anteater. Like, her nose is kind of like, and she looks like an anteater. And the person was not attractive, but had very large breasts. And if you were to look at this person, they very much look like a transgender. But I was very young. This person was very young as well. And this person was 17. Ashley used to hang around with her, and she didn't start coming over until maybe 4 times, 5 times after Ashley started. And then this girl just started showing up, right? Because people start hearing about information, the word of gossip. So how much of this information was then being trailed to me? Like, hey, this is guy, Michael Jackson, hey, transgender movement. Because they don't have to tell you anything about this transgender that slapped my mother and raped Frankie, this guy over here, or punched me and Frankie. What is going to happen is just go over there. Because you're likely to always, it's like a racial thing. It's like a white supremacist situation. You're more likely in an environment that someone of your own ethnicity is going to think of their own ethnicity from a distance and sort of treasure you, meaning you got one of your own over there. Even though that they could have slightly their own opinion, they're likely to elevate. What do they call trying to think, not elevate, sort of not graduate, elevate, but absorb sort of the interest of someone else's opinion. Transgender, they didn't do anything bad. You didn't know what they did though, and so it's a tactic thing that I think you can kind of just disperse people into an environment and knowing that it'll work for you. And I recall that I went right before I got raped by the transgender. This transgender walked by me, and I knew who she was. I talked to her several times. It seemed friendly. Came over my house 6 or 7 times. I didn't know this person was a transgender, and didn't find her interest. I thought, oh, it's just a friend, from Ashley and Robin, because they hung around with her. I felt like one of the things that I thought was crazy is I remember looking at Ashley when she was telling me the story about how she got that car, and Robin was looking over at Ashley and telling her go along with it. Oh yeah, and I thought, and I'm not trying to. I know this scatters into conversations because I'm trailing it, and I think, I don't know how Richard's Body Shop. I don't know who was giving free money away or free cars, but these are young girls. If you want the youngest, primest of ass, you're going to have to just give them money in a car, and then you can just have whatever girls they're going to then start giving to you or to anyone else. But this was Chris Martinez's girlfriend for a very long time. So I'm not trying to accuse Robin of anything. I'm not trying to say anything. But I do remember her just kind of looking at Ashley, and I thought that maybe she just, at that time, I thought, well, maybe she just doesn't, she was just kind of doing that just to be careful not to say too much. You got into a car wreck and, you got paid. You have a lot of money. You don't know who, you don't want him telling everybody you got all this money because that's what you're doing. So it was maybe a way just to slightly talk about it. But for those that want to look into it more, I can. And I thought, I know Robin got a brand new car too. I was 17 and she ended up getting a brand new Golf, all white, brand new car, brand new. And she didn't have no job, because I remember she said her parents were paying for the note, paying for the car. And I know she was dating Chris Martinez at the time. And I thought, I'm thinking now, I was like, did somehow somebody sell her that car? And then, I'm sure there was, because, Chris Martinez, I remember being around her and she was complaining to Chris Martinez, like, give me more $20, I'm going to go to IHOP. And she wasn't a drug addict. She never did drugs. I maybe smoked weed with her a couple of times, but she never did drugs. Maybe have a beer, 3 beers at most. And she was always very nice, very polite, sort of protective as well. When I was even younger, and I was like 15 going to Mike's house. 14 years old going to Mike's house. And they were still in high school and they were going to raves. And I'm thinking, okay, so if we trail this to people that are going to my house, and you have, I right before I got raped by the transgender, I'm 28 years old, I go to Club Mantis, and this transgender, that I didn't say anything, I posted on the internet, I said, oh, I'm at Club, for anybody, I wasn't calling out, I was like, oh, here's a picture, and I wasn't calling out girls or anything, I just kind of posted a quick picture, here at Club Mantis, Roy Davis Jr., whoever's playing, and I remember I was at the club, and this guy, I can't remember this person's name, and comes by me and walks very close to me, as I'm on the dance floor, and I think few people others saw this, and she sort of kind of pressed her tit up against me, like sort of pitching the idea, kind of like, and kind of making it look like an accident. And I kind of did this, and I kind of looked, and I'm not interested, you know. I don't know what it was, and I thought, and I didn't think anything. I just kind of looked, and I hadn't seen this person in years, but the way that it looked like within 30 minutes, less than an hour of me posting that picture, that person shows up. So it's like that. So never saw this person again, but I thought, I saw some pictures on the internet, on Facebook, that she had a kid with like a black guy, like from the ghetto, like a black guy from the ghettos. Maybe she is. I think it's a transgender. Maybe it's not a transgender. But I think it is. And she ends up. I saw the postings. I think it was in my early 20s. Had 2 kids with 2 black guys. Had 2 kids, and I guess lived in an apartment in the ghettos of the black guy. And this guy looked like he was like from the ghettos. Like some guy looked like he was looking like he was holding a 40 at the corner of a street, at the corner of a beer store, just, and I'm not trying to make fun of whatever the situation, but that's what he looked like. And, that was pretty much it. And I thought, how much of this could have led to any of these people that were coming in, because it would have put everybody in so much danger. And I think it's worth talking about, because to my understanding, I would believe Jack Murphy, to my understanding, was a multi-millionaire, owned that body shop and everything. And I noticed, John Murphy, he got a brand new BMW. Whoever was buying and paying for cars and all this other shit, and all this free money away. This has probably been going on for a long time. Everyone's just trying to clean up for those that are trying to do good. And one of the reasons that really influenced me that this is even morally going on is I was watching a video about watched a small clip about Shaquille O'Neal, and he was in an airplane with several other people, and there was a duffel bag full of money, like $10 million in cash, and he was just smiling and laughing, but he was posting like it's a funny video, and he's just grabbing money. He goes, "Here you go, here you go." He's just like it's sort of, and I'm thinking to myself, like, wait a minute, who the heck are all these people that are very wealthy that are just giving free money away to people, to whoever wants free money? There's a big, huge explosion of, in my opinion, it's sort of in the background of my thoughts, but I don't put very much thought toward it as much as I probably did before, because I think it's just a realization and I'm not in control of any of it, is I think that there were so many people that house sitting. I think the King family, the people that were house sitting, I think Kathy was, and somehow the president or the government or whoever it was in this organization that is laying down the law all across the U.S. is that they're cleaning out all the houses that people were doing and figuring out, well, how are you going to do this? Because now you have tens of thousands of people that just stole a bunch of houses and are freeloading. And so now what you're going to do to have to keep things safe, because you also have bad people in the U.S., is that, well, okay, just stay in your house. This is the guidelines that you're going to have to follow in order to stay in your house, and keep these people safe. Keep your house. This is the evolution of how the U.S., how you're going to have to start cleaning up. You have to allow certain things to happen to start fixing things, because you always have too many bad things and problems that are going on. And you have to figure out how to leverage that properly to then propel that in a better direction of human life to keep going in the healthiest way that you can. Even if they get it bad, then let them deal with that bad that they did. So I think that, I remember Richard Murphy telling me his mom was making a lot of money, making $28 an hour working for a law firm, and that's what she did for a long time. And she worked in an office where you had to have a card, and it was very high level security, like very high level security, like where she worked. And she said that she went to court and she testified against people. Michael told me this situation. He had chairs thrown at her and shit in court. Anyway, so, but I do recall that's kind of my opinion of it. That's what I think was this whole house sitting situation. My dad was not house sitting. I tell you, my father paid for that house, 100%. That's a fully paid off house he worked for. We lived in the smallest house in the entire city. And, my opinion, I know Chris Kemp, my opinion, I could be wrong, but my hunch is they were house sitting as well. Because there's very detailed things that really haunt me about my memory sometimes. And one of the reasons I know this is rabbit trailing, but hopefully you can follow me and understand what I'm saying. I remember I went to watch, the few times that I went to Chris Kemp's house, it was, who drove the BMW. I said that he had a golden retriever. And his dog had like a tumor in their neck or some shit, and they had a golden retriever. And the dog could play catch, and the dog had surgery, and I could see this bandage around its dog's neck. And they paid a lot. You gotta have a lot of money to do kind of shit like that. Send a dog to a medical doctor's office because you notice whatever. It costs a lot of money. Anyway, going out there playing in the backyard, and we decided to go watch a movie, and I think it was called Fievel Goes West, and Chris Kemp really liked this movie. It's about a cowboy-looking rat, or not rat, but mouse, and it's a cartoon movie, and I think it's a Disney movie. I'm pretty sure it's a Disney movie, but it was like a kid movie that comes out like along the lines with like Cinderella and Ninja Turtles and that kind of stuff. I kind of hated this movie, and I think I asked him to put Ninja Turtles on. I was like, hey, you want to go watch another movie? And we're in the living room. He's laying on the ground. His dad is reading the newspaper or reading a book, and he's on the couch. And his dad says, let him watch what he wants. And that's something that was red flags to me, because for me, any adult that ever told a little kid like that, because I was very polite. I wasn't bossing. I never was bossy around Kemp. In fact, Chris Kemp is the one that told me to come over. He was, hey, you want to come to our house? So I was never bossy around other people. And so I go to his room. We, whatever, has video games or whatever. And we hung out a couple times. I go back downstairs, and I thought, I remember like sort of looking at his dad, and his dad didn't say like angry. He was just seemed very loving and caring to his son. Like his son is going to get what he wants. Sort of, that's probably the betrayal idea of it. That he without a doubt, I adores this kid, and not a monster that I could ever just quite kind of remind me a little bit of my father's sort of personality, same t-shirt, jeans and shoes, glasses, domestic. And I go into the kitchen, and I saw his sister and Chris, and he says, I say something because I felt at the time, I felt like I needed to be proud of my dad. And so I'm in a wealthy white person's house, in a 2-story house, and this house is huge. It's a huge house, and he ends up. I end up saying, "Oh, my dad's a World War II veteran, and yeah, my house is already paid off for. My dad's lived there for a very long time." And that's how I portray it, but I have no idea any about this. This is kind of how I sort of stand, because I always knew people saw my dad as an old person, an old man. So this is kind of a way to say that I'm valued. Like, yeah, I got my own stuff. My dad's, yeah, he goes, my dad's a World War II veteran, you know, and whatever. And when I say that our house is already paid off for, and I talked about this in the video, I kind of see his mom do kind of shudder a little bit. But I don't know his mom's a transgender. And this is how I confirm that his mom's a transgender. I don't know where along the lines, but in my opinion, is I think that his mom or dad said, don't bring that kid over here anymore. And because they didn't say really anything to me. Maybe it's because partially because I was Mexican. But I think it was because of maybe that. You know, we have to keep situations secure. And I remember, like, Chris came sort of having this sort of defensive, sort of like, but that's my mom or something. And he wasn't directed at me, but the energy, the vibe was kind of like that. And I don't know what I said. We were riding bikes the next couple of days, and I'm like, oh, hey, you know, you want to go watch, you want to go to your house again, go play catch with your dog? I don't know what it was. And I don't know if I said something about his mom, but he was very, like, sort of like, are you making fun of my mother? And he said something to me. He didn't say that, but he said something like, oh, but yeah, she's my mom. And he's sort of looking at her, so I think he knew that his mom was. So that's how I know that his mom was a transgender. Obviously, she looked like one. You know, she looked very much like one. It was very big for a person, and women are usually small in most cases. So anyway, there's obviously all this house sitting and all this stuff that's going on, and I think that, you know, obviously it's a big mess of things because you have all these people sort of freeloading all this money and crap. But, you know, I thought, you know, nobody knows. In my opinion, I just think it was the dumbest, I think it was the most dangerous thing, because for me not to be able to know that I need to defend myself in that manner, if I know that's like putting a red flag on somebody's back and then say, go walk, see if nobody's going to notice. That's what that's doing. And that puts me in a very dangerous situation, because at least I know that I need to be very important, and I'm smart enough to understand. But the people that don't want to tell me, Keno, 979B, Ken Cooper, Sarah, and several other people, don't want to say anything. Oh, it's because they're wiser. Hector may open his mouth, and it's probably best to just... But that's not the case, in my opinion. But this is a difference of opinion, right? So I think it's important for me to talk about, because I think about, you know, I think about how this could have correlated in such a mastermind plan. And I couldn't defend myself. My mother could barely defend herself. You know, and it terrorizes me. It haunts me. You know, it haunts me a lot to think of what my mother went through. It's very haunting. It's haunting to me, because it's like I can't do anything, and I know she's doing the best. Like, I've been around other Mexican women similar to my mom's situation, but the lifestyle and existence is different. And my mother had a very forward pushing that she can take control, and she can do it. And you have to have the mentality. For someone to cross a border at 14 years old, 13 years old, that is a will of fight power for the life that you want. That is a determination of saying, I want a better life, that you have to have in you, or you don't, to be 13 years old and go into a foreign country and know English. You know, that is a determination to say, I want a better life. That is a determination of unmatchable willpower. So I knew always that of my mother. And, you know, I think it haunts me so much, because I think how many people took advantage of this situation, and, you know, she wants to be loving and caring, but she can't. You know, and she has to do the best that she can, and then they just throw the garbage on her, and that's what they ended up doing. But I think it's important for me to discuss, because, you know, it's hard to erase. It's hard to erase my mother's, like, vibe
to say that this is who she was, and somebody erase that and then say, no, this is what Sarah Cooper and Kenneth were doing for Madison and just a better life. You don't know. And there's a culture that you also have to, understand. Like, in Mexican families, yelling is, arguments are going to be a little bit different than white people or black people. Mexican people in Mexican homes, they don't know what grounded is. Grounded? What is grounded? You're grounded for a week. You just can't watch TV. What is grounded? We don't understand. We understand el cinto, what is it? A spoon, spatulas, and a twig from a tree getting whipped. But I think it's important for me to talk about, because the most important thing I think of is the situation with people that were coming into this house. And without a doubt, I'm 100% sniper on this. This guy was selling me this black girl, and he was trying to sexually get me to get interested and then pin me. So when someone is doing that, it's because they know they're going to set the people in the perimeter up, and they're going to do that to you, and then sell you. I didn't do anything. This is Mr. Barry. He was just fine dating white American. White American did it again. You didn't do it. You did it. I think it's important to talk about 100%. I remember this. And I heard a few people talk about that this guy Barry was racist. And when you looked at Mr. Barry, he looked kind of crazy. Kind of like crazy, not like his brain was wired crazy. It kind of like crazy. Like he was just he was probably more fetching out for his own life. Like he was determined to survive, and this is how he survived, by creating this sort of energetic part of himself that kept him, and he just kind of ticked away crazy a little bit, because he had a ticking craziness to him that was, because you see that way that he's dressed, groomed, but he had this ticking information, and this guy was he was kind of, ticky, with his eyes. You looked at him and he kind of looked like he had a bitter rottedness inside of him that was rotted and bitter, that was deep, that was very deep, and he didn't want to say anything, and he didn't want things to go his way. And I think it's important, because my mother doesn't know, and I don't know what consciousness that my mother has anymore, but I think it's good for me to talk about on video, hearing about these prison stories, does make me kind of think. I'm not going to go into the trails, just a video and of what they did to me, and I think, exactly, because males know how to do that. They do it with girls, and so they know how to do that, and it's the groups. One crazy thing that I thought to myself, or not, what I was thinking, I thought it was really wild when I watched this prison video, is that this guy said that for 1 year, this guy shows up in prison. He's in this, what they call the shoe or whatever. You're in this 10 by 10 cell, 24 hours a day, 1 hour recreation, and that's it. And they sometimes stay there for years. And these are like the worst of all criminals that you just can't do nothing with them. Throwing feces at, police officers or whatever. So, but he says that this correctional officer that he was working with, he said that this guy, first, he says it was like a fishing line. First they start off with something small. Then they kind of graduate to something else. Oh, can you bring me a burger? Can you bring me some liquor? Oh, can I have an extra toothpaste? And so they buy the trust of this cop, and this cop does it. And he goes along and feels sorry for the guy somehow, and brings him some vodka, brings him, and the guy ends up having to rat himself out. because after a year, he waits a year to get comfortable with him. And then one day he shows up at his cell to give him, regular lunch chow. And this guy then threatens him and says, I know where you live. I know your 3 daughters, so-and-so name, and this is the street you live on. If you don't do what I say, I'm going to kill all of them. And this is wild. This is crazy. This is what this guy says. This guy's able to find out in a 10 by 10 cell this correctional officer's address, name, family members, kids that he had, and then threatens to kill all of them. And he said this guy got scared and nervous. He's like, how the heck? And this is how crazy it is. And I don't know what reason it was. Obviously, it was, had to have been pretty scary. But that goes to show and say that this is how much information somebody can get from you. And this is a person that's sitting 10 by 10 cell, building a trust with somebody to make you feel comfortable. And so that he says that the guy has to go rat himself out. He confesses to the other bosses or whatever. He says, yeah, I was giving this guy food, and he has to because he's scared for his family, his life. They're going to kill him and his family. I don't know what the story behind this situation, but it's just a small brief. And, it's pretty wild. Obviously it's a different world, the worst of life, heads cut off in there, rapes. And I thought, one interesting thing about this anatomy, of the physical anatomy, and I thought, which is why I always, I don't know where this idea comes from, this homosexual shit, and these faggots, these gay guys in their secret hidden closets don't have the ability to do anything in life because it's a disability. You hear the gay parades, stand up for gay parades, stand up for... I always think that's a joke because in my opinion, they have the ability to be more crazy, in my opinion, to do more crazier shit. And this guy's correctional officer says that they go after a guy, they're like, he's monitoring everybody, and he says that they go after this guy, and there's a group of them, and he says that this guy squats down, he literally puts his hand in his ass, up his ass, and he pulls out a knife. There's lots of stories I've heard that about. But what caught my attention about this, in order to have your rectum stretch out that wide and have a knife placed in there, whether it's a plastic bag covering from the lacerations or whatnot, in order to put your hand up there, that guy, individual, had to have been penetrating himself and having anal sex with God knows what items and how many people for a very long time. To then pull that out of this homosexual pulls a fucking butcher knife and this knife weapon out of his ass to then go do a killing. That shows that straight men can't do that. And this is the psychosis of crazy shit that entails, the murders and everything. I've seen a lot of cartel videos that, obviously that's all they do is torture people and cut people's heads off and arms and legs. And they talk about, that they get trained and told that if they don't go along with this type of stuff, then, they turn on them. But I think it was important. I think it's important for me to talk about because, and regardless of the circumstances, in my opinion, I would have rather have known because I know I have to be very careful with what I say. For me to think, oh, you just live a normal life or monitoring shit. No, you're not. In order to protect yourself, to know that, okay, you have to be careful with what you say. This is, you have a lot of people, and this is not going to be good. So, obviously this entails to the same thing like happened to me whenever the whole rape happened with Patricia Gadina. And I recall that I talked about this. I was 23 years old. It was right before my bone marrow transplant. Right before my diagnosis. It was like 6 months prior to that, a year prior to that. I was 22 years old, I think. I don't think it could have been right after my bone marrow transplant. I don't think it was. It was right before. And I said that I saw Patricia Gadina, and this person was stalking me. And it was at Zoo Bar in Dallas, in Greenville. And the guy that she was talking to, I don't remember if she walked in there with him. I don't remember or saw, but it was just her and this guy named Jose. This guy Jose was the cutter. He was the guy that was at Advanced Graphics, Advanced Online, with Mike Standish, where I got all these tickets and all this crazy shit, and Gary Gwynn acting crazy. And this guy that was the cutter, he always started to talk about threats of how Mike Standish was. He was a boxer. This guy was pretty big, real short, stocky, bald, looked like Mr. Clean. And this guy was like crazy. This guy, he didn't really scare me, but the only thing that made me nervous about it is that he seemed to always kind of insinuate that I can send he knew people in the outside world. He portrayed himself that I know people in the outside world, and that the president that worked for that company, which was Mike Standish, was the guy that could send hits out to people because he's running this entire company, and that's what I always believed and saw. And I told this guy, but I didn't know. I said, I thought I saw you once, and I swear that I told him this because I wasn't too sure. I said, I thought maybe I saw you at a club once, or like at Zoo Bar or something. No, I don't go to clubs. I think it's important for me to talk about because it was him. I'm 100% it was him. And he was talking to Patricia Gadina, and I remember him sort of doing this, like, sort of like engaging, like, and leaning over the bar at the corner of and I drew a picture of this. It's sort of like empathy, and kind of like, and then kind of, and I remember him doing this, like, and I don't know if he was trying to say don't, could have been saying don't, or careful, because this person to show a lot of interest toward me. And I remember thinking to myself, it's a dude. And I remember this person walking by, and I thought, oh, I think that's a dude. And I kind of like, and I did this. If there's cameras in that place, you'll see. Johnny Fiasco, he played at that club before. And I saw him in my early 20s. I went there when I was like 20 years old, 19 or something. I think once saw Johnny Fiasco play. And but the night that I went there, I don't know if there wasn't a top DJ. It wasn't the night that Patricia was there. I think it was just some regular old, just local DJ. It was a regular, and the music was playing, but it wasn't as playing as loud when they have a headliner. And anyway, I thought I would make that discussion because, you know, there's all kinds of stuff that goes on. And I think the more information that I can sort of give, the more mapping out that you can do. Obviously, the bad is always going to be the bad. You can start going into more details and more bad, and it just keeps getting worse. So, because it's just, you know, you just dissect the bad over the bad again. So, yeah, I you know, think to myself and the situation that was going on there. You know, obviously it's too late. You know, there is a sense of shame when it comes to that. Why I didn't just stop killing this person. And I don't like to talk like that, but there was a sense of that. You know, all I was thinking of was what this prison and jail and with these police officers and how they were going to do the inside work on me if I were to kill this person. If I were to strangle this person for raping me and this is a sex change. and this, it was just like this person doesn't know what the fuck. This person had to have absolutely no sense of remorse, of empathy to what you're doing. This person doesn't care about my fucking life at all, like zero. And it was like, well, maybe it's not, because all the lights were turned off. And it was just something that I felt like it was like, okay, I'm just going to go and pretend and finish. And like it was just dull as shit, like zombie almost emotions. Ended very quickly, and I thought, because the fear of it when I was just thinking and I'm looking at this person, I thought, I was just thinking of the outside. I was just thinking jail cells, the other inmates, gay community, incarcerating me, I lose my life, I get nothing. At least I can make a run for it for now, when this is over with. Because it was already too late. I knew it was instant, like my life was never going to be the same again. Right then and there, in that hotel, Motel 6. Never going to be the same. And I know enough about the anatomy of the physical body to understand there's no nerves for you to sense anything, and it's hard to grip to think to yourself there's a human whole. It's like I'm fucking a dead body. I'm having sex with a human dead body that doesn't have a fully functional brain, and this person has the ambitions of still wanting to stay alive. And however much, I don't know who this, obviously if that's the case, you don't know what this person was going through. You don't know where they came from, wherever they came from, and whatever, when they had that sex change, and the people around that had to be some of the most gayest, nastiest individuals that you can imagine to do the craziest sex, disgusting acts, fucking rubbing, fucking baby dolls and sticking rats in their ass, crazy sex shit. I mean, gay, homosexual, only LGBT community crazy shit. And had to been some crazy people around. And it was very dull. It was just like desensitizing in the sense that maybe I'm just going to take the gamble and hope that this isn't the real case. I got this wrong. I'm hoping I'm just going to pretend and keep going. And that was over with. So, when I went eventually, and I was in my early 30s, I stayed at the hotel in Motel 6. And it helps me to just kind of like be in the environment, just then go where it happened, and sort of just leave off a little bit better, start a healing process. And I think that this kind of helps. Map out, understand what had happened, take a look, observe, make videotapes and pictures. Hopefully that feeds an interest of whatever, investigators, professionals, yada yada, because you have a homicide. Going on here. So, but when I go to see this person, I'm 31 years old, and I go to this Mexican restaurant, I can't remember the name, kind of had like a Tacubana kind of look to it, feel, tropical island kind of deal. And I went to go see Patricia, as an Asian person up at the front desk, and I see a lawyer way down to my left, way on the other side. And he's just like with his bag, like, and I know there's other people involved with a lot of money. Obviously, they're going to try to feed this person all the lawyer shit with Patricia Cadena, so that they can just get away with what they did. And I can see this guy like way over there, and he's sort of doing this, like, and so he's physically demonstrating body language that indicates law of authority, knowledge, paper, money, playing the rights to what they want legally. It's also intimidation to let you know who has the money and control. But I don't think anything, so this is why when I pull out the book, I start pointing, talking, and I make this conversation to how well rational this person is mentally. And I'm thinking, like, how well do they understand? And I look, and I take a look underneath her feet, because obviously men's feet, toenails and nails on men and women are different at least the majority percentage of time. Where you have the surface of your nails are much more thicker in men. Have you noticed? Because we grow testosterone, we grow beards, muscle, you grow this. So women, if you look, very pretty toenails, nails, much more thinner, delicate, much more softer skin. But obviously this person had been taking some sort of medication. And I noticed that the feet are kind of sort of a little bit larger. And I noticed that nails are thick, like a man. And sturdy. And I said, and this leads more to your work, dude. And I'm thinking, I felt compassion. I know it sounds crazy, but I felt like I felt like I needed to feel empathy for this person, because this person was not there anymore. That's how I felt. And I thought, you're just not there anymore. And so, we kind of finished the meal, and I could sort of tell, and I asked this person, did you have a sex change? And so she kind of looks at her phone or what's going on, and there's something, I don't think, it's hard. You say, oh, did you have your dick cut off and you were a dude before? What they think they were at one time, what they then did later with surgery, that's out of my element to understand. Of the psychology of sex changes and brain damage and what that could entail. And so I noticed that this person is out of it. And so I feel like I have to feel empathy, because I'm thinking, okay, I know I can't do anything about any of this anymore. I've already had sex with this person. 1 million people know this is an amputee. There's all these people. There is nothing I can do for you. In order for me to heal from this, I have to show some empathy, some compassion, because of what you did to yourself, because of what other people had aligned to do this. But whatever horrors that people are going to continue doing, they're going to continue doing. They did. But this person, I don't believe it could be in the right state of mind. In order for me to heal, I have to show empathy and compassion to, and a source of forgiveness. Not because I start going down the road of Bible beating myself with Jesus, but it's along those lines. And that's the way that I approach, it's just like a homicide. I'm looking at a person that just killed me, and you just killed yourself. And you have no idea how much harm that you've just done. You can't understand. So, get up. I hug this person, give him a quick hug, thank you for talking to me for a moment. You take care, be safe. And we walk out the store and leave. We walk out, I don't think it was in the restaurant. I noticed we walk out, cover the bill, and this person says, "Oh, that's my." No, he goes, "Oh, I'm sorry, no, but my car's over here." It's a brand new car. I don't know if it was a Maxima. I think it was, but like earlier years, 4-door, silver, brand new looking car. I thought it was a decoy car. I thought that this person was saying that, no, okay, my car's over there. It was referencing a substitution to keep the person mentally healthy, because that's how psychology does, right? They keep you safe and healthy and mentally healthy, and they try to fix out things to substitute, because there's nothing you can do about that anymore, So you know, accept the things you can no longer change, and that's the best remedy. I think that's what that was, and so that's kind of the other red flag I got that said this person is a trans, this person has sex change, and there's other people in charge of you now. But whatever's going on, it's best for me just to leave this way. Wherever the investigators are, if there is hope, they're going to look into it. Whatever hope that is. Me acting violent or trying to debate that this person's not there anymore. Huge parts of them is not there. That this person's not functional. And so I think it's important, you know, to talk about that. You know, it's hard to think to myself that God knows how many people this person slept with that could have infected with an HIV, and how I could have been targeted. But this person looked like you could control them somewhat very easily and trigger them to do that. Because when I saw Jose talking to her, this person was on their phone, just kind of always on their phone, looking at their phone constantly. And then she wasn't all that engaging with him very much. She kind of kept her head down a lot and always on the phone, like, sort of like, and then he seemed more of control over her, maybe possible decisions, because he was leaning over it like this, and he was just kind of seemed just kind of like doing this, and then he goes, because I didn't get a good look. When I walked in, she's already sitting there. Okay? And I don't know if, I couldn't remember if I got there, because I talked about she walked right in front of me, and I don't know if that was a different time or the same time with two other transgenders, two more short girls, right across the club at Zoo Bar. And I want to say, I think this person saw me, or was looking at their phone, and these other two people next to each, and she was in the middle, were looking at her phone. And I don't know if this person was looking for me. So, I don't know if this was the same day, but I'm in the center of the dance floor. There's not very many people, and it's like a bar club. There's a very small place, Zoo Bar, for those that don't have been there. A lot of people have played there. DeMarcus Lewis, legendary, playing there. A lot of people that have played there. A lot of local DJs. It was a pretty good hot spot for house music. And it was on Greenville, somewhat near, you know, Red Jacket. It was a legendary club, and some other clubs. But I'm standing there. I think this person walks by me, and I'm like, and I didn't get it very quick, because it happens very quickly, and I'm like, you know, and this person then sits down, and I really can't take a good look at this person, because it isn't all the light in the world. It is a nightclub. Doors are open. There's windows all in the front walls in the entrance. But I'm looking, and I can see that he then does this, and he goes. So there was an open door of an engagement to say, okay, well, maybe that's what he wants or what. But this person, they made eye contact with me several times and looked right at me. There wasn't anyone around me. I'm standing in a single space area, DJ's playing, maybe 2 or 3 people up against the wall at a bar table, you know, at a small round table, you know, and then the bar's over there. And so I'm singled out. You know who I am. So all of a sudden, you see Patricia get up and then walk and leave. And I don't know if it was because he was saying don't talk to him, or I don't think you should, or be careful, or whatever. I don't know what that conversation was, what this behavior was. But this person showed interest as it was walking by. So, you know, I've already talked about this story, driven pictures of it. But, yeah. So I'm going to make some other videos, talk about some other subjects. I'm probably going to watch a movie or something.